In 1987, Old Detroit birthed a legend that redefined sci-fi forever. But beneath the chrome and visor, the stars of RoboCop were fighting their own battles. Decades have passed since the roar of the ED-209 filled the screen, and the transformations of the cast will leave you speechless. You won't believe how much time has changed the faces behind omni-consumer products. Some legends never fade, but others are unrecognizable. Peter Weller as Officer Alex Murphy / RoboCop. Born on June 24, 1947, in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, Peter Weller brought a haunting and stoic humanity to the role of Officer Alex Murphy. At the age of 39, he stepped into the heavy metallic chassis for Paul Verhoeven's sci-fi masterpiece, creating a performance that transcended the typical action hero archetype. His portrayal turned a violent satire on corporate greed into a tragic exploration of identity and memory, cementing RoboCop as a global pop culture icon. The film's immense success spawned a franchise, and Weller's distinctive jawline and robotic movement became instantly recognizable symbols of 1980s cinema. The reality of playing the invincible cyborg was a grueling physical ordeal that contrasted sharply with Weller's background as a cerebral, method-trained actor and jazz musician. While the character was an efficient machine, Weller suffered immensely inside the costume. The prop was initially so heavy and restrictive that he could barely move, forcing him to work with a mime coach to invent the character's signature motions. The heat inside the suit was suffocating, causing him to lose pounds of water weight daily, creating significant friction on set, and nearly leading him to quit the production entirely. Furthermore, despite the role's fame, Weller fought to avoid being typecast as an action figure, eventually turning down the third installment of the franchise to pursue more dramatic work, like Naked Lunch, prioritizing artistic challenge over commercial repetition. Peter Weller successfully diversified his career in the decades following, pivoting heavily toward directing for hit television series such as Sons of Anarchy, Longmire, and Hawaii Five-0. In a fascinating departure from Hollywood norms, he dedicated himself to academia later in life, earning a PhD in Italian Renaissance art history from UCLA in 2014, and hosting the History Channel series Engineering an Empire. He has been married to actress Shari Stowe since 2006. As of 2026, at the age of 78, he is a respected elder statesman of the industry and a scholar, continuing to lend his voice to projects and occasionally appearing on screen while maintaining his passion for art history and education. Kurtwood Smith as Clarence Boddicker. Born on July 3, 1943, in New Lisbon, Wisconsin, the actor carved out a distinct niche in Hollywood before landing his breakout role in Paul Verhoeven's sci-fi classic. At the age of 43, Smith's portrayal of the bespectacled intellectual yet ultra-violent crime boss, Clarence Boddicker, became instantly iconic, redefining the archetype of the movie villain. His chilling delivery of lines like, "Can you fly, Bobby?" and his terrifying blend of corporate ambition and street-level brutality helped RoboCop become a massive critical and commercial success, cementing Boddicker as one of cinema's most memorable antagonists. Despite playing one of the most sadistic characters in film history, Kurtwood Smith is known in real life as a gentle, soft-spoken intellectual and a dedicated family man completely removed from the ruthlessness of his on-screen persona. This convincing performance, however, became a double-edged sword. For years, Smith struggled with severe typecasting, frequently finding himself pigeonholed into roles as cold authority figures or villains in projects like Rambo III and Dead Poets Society. Breaking out of this mold was a significant professional hurdle, as casting directors often struggled to see his potential for comedy or sympathetic roles, until he finally shattered that perception later in his career. Smith eventually found a second wave of massive success by leveraging his stern demeanor for comedy, most notably as the grumpily lovable Red Foreman on That 70s Show. He has remained married to his wife, Joan Perkins, since 1988, maintaining a stable private life amidst his Hollywood career. He recently revisited his most famous comedic role in the spin-off That 90s Show and continued his extensive voice acting work, particularly within the Star Trek franchise. As of 2026, at the age of 82, he is still an active and respected figure in the industry, continuing to perform with the same intensity that launched his career nearly 4 decades ago. Miguel Ferrer as Bob Morton. Born on February 7, 1955 in Santa Monica, California, the son of Hollywood legends Jose Ferrer and Rosemary Clooney, initially pursued a career in music before turning to acting. At the age of 31, Ferrer's ambitious junior executive Bob Morton in RoboCop became an instant classic of 1980s cinema. His manic energy and aggressive delivery encapsulated the era's cutthroat corporate culture, making the character the man responsible for creating the titular cyborg, a memorable, sleazy antagonist who audiences loved to watch. While Bob Morton was defined by his greed, narcissism, and lack of morals, Miguel Ferrer was known off-screen as a deeply loyal friend, a devoted family man, and a talented drummer who had toured with major acts before finding fame on screen. This contrast often surprised fans, expecting the abrasive personality he perfected. However, his unique ability to play intensity so well led to significant typecasting. For years, he struggled to break free from roles requiring him to be the villain or the angry authority figure. He faced the volatility of the industry as well, dealing with the swift cancellation of several series like Broken Badges and On the Air in the early 1990s, which forced him to constantly hustle for guest spots to maintain his career momentum. Miguel Ferrer eventually found long-term stability in television, becoming a staple on procedurals like Crossing Jordan and NCIS Los Angeles, while also lending his distinctive gravelly voice to major animated roles like Shan Yu in Disney's Mulan. Despite a diagnosis of throat cancer, he continued to work tirelessly, refusing to let his illness stop him from performing during his final years. Miguel Ferrer passed away at his home in Los Angeles on January 19, 2017, at the age of 61, after his battle with the disease. His death prompted an outpouring of tributes from his cousin George Clooney and his NCIS Los Angeles co-stars who honored his legacy as a prolific character actor who brought grit and authenticity to every role he touched. Ronny Cox as Dick Jones. Born on July 23, 1938 in Cloudcroft, New Mexico, the actor initially built a reputation playing nice guys and authority figures before taking a dark turn in Paul Verhoeven's sci-fi classic. At the age of 48, Cox's portrayal of the ruthless omni-consumer products executive became the face of 1980s corporate greed. His performance provided the perfect antagonist to the cyborg hero, delivering lines like, "I work for Dick Jones," with a venomous arrogance that solidified the character as one of the most memorable villains in action movie history. Despite the character's murderous ambition and cold demeanor, Ronny Cox is known in reality as a gentle, affable storyteller and a dedicated folk musician, a stark contrast to the boardroom shark he played. This convincing performance, however, created a professional hurdle. He became heavily typecast as the evil suit or the corrupt authority figure. After years of playing sensitive characters, such as in Deliverance, he found himself locked into villainous roles for years, most notably repeating a similar dynamic in Total Recall, which made it difficult for him to be considered for the warmer, more sympathetic roles he personally preferred. Ronny Cox maintained a steady presence in Hollywood, with recurring roles in Stargate SG-1 and Beverly Hills Cop, though he faced personal tragedy with the death of his wife Mary in 2006, ending a 46-year marriage. In his later years, he largely stepped away from the screen to pursue his passion for music full-time, traveling the country as a singer-songwriter. As of 2026, at the age of 87, he is still active and touring, performing at folk festivals and intimate venues where he combines his acoustic sets with behind-the-scenes stories from his film career, embracing a life defined by song rather than corporate corruption. Nancy Allen as Officer Ann Lewis. Born on June 24, 1950, the New York City native established herself in Hollywood with roles in Brian De Palma thrillers before donning the badge in the sci-fi classic RoboCop. At the age of 37, Allen's portrayal of the gum-chewing, fiercely loyal officer Ann Lewis provided the essential human anchor to the film's cyborg protagonist. Her performance was a crucial counterweight to the movie's extreme violence, offering a depiction of a tough, competent policewoman that resonated with audiences and became a defining archetype for female action heroes in the late 80s. While Officer Lewis was gritty street smart and physically imposing in her body armor, Nancy Allen was known in reality for being soft-spoken feminine and originally averse to firearms. This contrast presented a distinct acting challenge, requiring her to cut her signature long hair and adopt a masculine gait to be taken seriously as a beat cop. Her career faced significant hurdles regarding typecasting. Prior to RoboCop, she struggled to shake the mean girl image from Carrie or the Scream Queen label from Dressed to Kill. Furthermore, her time in the RoboCop franchise ended with professional disappointment. In RoboCop 3, her character was unceremoniously killed off. In the first act, a creative decision she disagreed with, and which fans widely criticized, marking a frustrating conclusion to her most iconic role and contributing to her gradual step back from mainstream cinema. Nancy Allen eventually shifted her focus away from Hollywood to dedicate her life to philanthropy and health advocacy, particularly after her own battle with breast cancer. As of 2026, at the age of 75, she is the executive director of the We Spark Cancer Support Center in Los Angeles, an organization she has passionately led for years. While she has largely retired from acting, making only rare appearances or participating in documentaries about her past work, she remains a beloved figure on the convention circuit, embracing the enduring legacy of Officer Lewis while championing the wellness of others. Ray Wise as Leon Nash. Born on August 20, 1947, the Akron, Ohio native began his career on stage and soap operas before landing a spot in Paul Verhoeven's dystopian classic. At the age of 39, Wise's portrayal of Leon Nash, the ruthless and calculating henchman in Clarence Boddicker's gang, became a memorable piece of sci-fi history. While the role was supporting, his participation in the film's brutal satire helped cement RoboCop as a genre-defining hit, and his character's violent demise remains one of the film's visual signatures. In stark contrast to the cold-blooded killers and maniacal villains he became famous for playing, Ray Wise is widely regarded in the industry as a gentle, affable, and classically trained professional. This dichotomy created a specific professional hurdle. His piercing gaze and intense screen presence led to severe typecasting. For years, he struggled to be seen as anything other than an antagonist, a challenge that intensified after his harrowing performance in Twin Peaks. He often had to navigate the instability of character acting, moving between short-lived series and guest spots, fighting to showcase his comedic and dramatic range in an industry that preferred to keep him in a sinister box. Ray Wise successfully transcended his early typecasting to become a prolific and beloved character actor, embracing his status as a cult icon. He found renewed popularity with younger generations through his role as the Devil in Reaper and his comedic turn in Fresh Off the Boat, all while maintaining a steady marriage of over 4 decades. As of 2026, at the age of 78, he is an active presence in Hollywood and the convention circuit, celebrated for a diverse career that spans over 50 years and includes some of the most enduring franchises in television and film history. Paul McCrane as Emil Antonowsky. Born on January 19, 1961, the Philadelphia native stepped into the violent world of Paul Verhoeven's sci-fi classic RoboCop to play one of Clarence Boddicker's henchmen. At the age of 26, McCrane's portrayal of the manic and sadistic Emil Antonowsky became legendary, particularly for his horrific transformation into a melting man after crashing into a vat of toxic waste. This gruesome demise is frequently cited as one of the most memorable and visceral death scenes in cinema history, cementing his face and its prosthetic disintegration in 80s pop culture lore. While Emil was an unhinged criminal, Paul McCrane is a disciplined intellectual and soft-spoken professional, presenting a stark contrast to the villains he frequently inhabited. The role itself exacted a physical toll. The elaborate prosthetics for his famous death scene required nearly 10 hours of application, forcing him to act through heavy, suffocating layers of latex while conveying distinct agony. Following the film, McCrane faced the professional hurdle of being typecast as the antagonist or the weasel, a struggle that saw him consistently hired to play unlikable authority figures or jerks, rather than sympathetic leading roles requiring him to work harder to showcase his full dramatic range. McCrane successfully pivoted from character acting to a prolific and stable career behind the camera, though he remains iconic on-screen for his role as the abrasive Dr. Robert Romano on ER. He found deep fulfillment in his personal life, marrying jewelry designer Dana Kellen in 1998, with whom he shares 2 children, Bernadette and William. Over the last 2 decades, he has established himself as a highly sought-after television director, helming episodes for major franchises, including The West Wing, Grey's Anatomy, and the Chicago series. As of 2026, at the age of 65, he is an active and respected dual threat in the industry, continuing to balance occasional acting gigs with a busy directing schedule. Leeza Gibbons as Jesse Perkins. Born on March 26, 1957, the Hartsville, South Carolina native made her memorable film debut in the sci-fi classic RoboCop. At the age of 30, Gibbons's portrayal of the cheerful yet desensitized news anchor Jesse Perkins provided the satirical backbone of the film's dystopian narrative. Her recurring media break segments became iconic, satirizing the normalization of violence in media, and her performance successfully blurred the lines between her real-life rising stardom as a television personality and the movie's gritty, cynical universe. While Jesse Perkins was a caricature of a detached and sensationalist newsreader who would smile through horrific tragedy, Leeza Gibbons is known for her empathy, warmth, and genuine connection with audiences, marking a sharp contrast to her on-screen alter ego. This role was a rare acting venture for Gibbons, who primarily struggled against the industry perception of being solely a host rather than a dramatic actress, which limited her opportunities in scripted roles. Her career also faced the volatile nature of daytime television. Despite high ratings and an Emmy win, her self-titled talk show, Leeza, had to navigate the turbulent trash TV era and was eventually canceled in 2000 after a 7-year run as the landscape of syndication shifted. Leeza Gibbons has since pivoted her focus significantly toward health advocacy and entrepreneurship, particularly inspired by her mother's battle with Alzheimer's disease. She founded the Leeza Gibbons Memory Foundation, and Leeza's Care Connection to support caregivers and families. She also found immense success in the direct response industry and won The Celebrity Apprentice in 2015, showcasing her business acumen. As of 2026, at the age of 69, she is an active health advocate, author, and speaker, continuing her dedicated work in senior care and wellness while residing in Los Angeles with her husband, Stephen Felton. Dan O'Herlihy as the Old Man. Born on May 1, 1919, in Wexford, Ireland, the distinguished actor brought a chilling corporate authority to the screen in Paul Verhoeven's sci-fi classic RoboCop. At the age of 67, O'Herlihy's portrayal of the OCP chairman, known simply as the Old Man, became an iconic representation of unchecked capitalism and corporate greed. His grandfatherly demeanor masked a ruthless indifference to human life, creating a memorable antagonist that grounded the film's satirical edge and contributed to its massive success as a genre-defining blockbuster. While the Old Man was a symbol of cold, calculating power, Dan O'Herlihy was known in reality as a gentle, soft-spoken intellectual with a background in architecture. This sharp contrast highlighted his range, but his career path was far from easy. Despite an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor in 1954's Adventures of Robinson Crusoe, he struggled to maintain leading man status in Hollywood. For decades, he faced the hardship of professional stagnation, often forced to take roles in B-movies and television guest spots to support his family, feeling that his talents were frequently underutilized or typecast into villainous roles due to his imposing voice and stature. Dan O'Herlihy continued to act into his final years, experiencing a late career resurgence with roles in The Dead, The Last Starfighter, and the television series Twin Peaks. He remained a dedicated family man, married to his wife Elsa for nearly 60 years until his passing. O'Herlihy died of natural causes at his home in Malibu, California, on February 17, 2005, at the age of 85. His extensive body of work covers more than 50 years in film and television, leaving behind a legacy as one of the most versatile character actors of his generation. Robert DoQui as Sergeant Warren Reed. Born on April 20, 1934 in Stillwater, Oklahoma, the veteran character actor brought a commanding presence to the screen long before entering the dystopian world of Detroit. At the age of 53, DoQui assumed the role of Sergeant Warren Reed in the 1987 sci-fi classic RoboCop, portraying the stern but supportive precinct sergeant who famously told officers to get out there and kick some ass. His portrayal was a grounding force in the film, representing the beleaguered soul of the police force fighting against corporate corruption. He became one of the few cast members to appear in all three films of the original trilogy, solidifying the character as a fan favorite and a symbol of integrity and grit. Despite the gruff, shouting demeanor of Sergeant Reed, Robert DoQui was known off-screen as a gentle, articulate, and highly educated man with a background in music and the arts. This contrast highlighted his range, but his career was often defined by the limited archetypes available to black actors of his generation. Before landing his role as the law-abiding sergeant, DoQui struggled against being typecast in the 1970s blaxploitation era, where he was frequently relegated to playing flamboyant pimps and hustlers, most notably as King George in Coffee. While he successfully transitioned from playing criminals to authority figures, he spent years fighting for roles that offered dignity and substance, navigating a Hollywood landscape that often failed to utilize his full dramatic potential. Robert DoQui remained active in the industry following the RoboCop franchise, particularly finding success as a voice actor thanks to his distinctive deep baritone. He voiced characters in animated series such as Batman the Animated Series and Justice League, while serving as an influential member of the Screen Actors Guild's Board of Directors, advocating for minority representation. Robert DoQui passed away in Los Angeles, California on February 9, 2008, at the age of 73, from natural causes related to heart failure. He was laid to rest at Inglewood Park Cemetery, leaving behind a legacy as a versatile performer who elevated every scene he was in, regardless of the genre. Felton Perry as Donald Johnson. Born on July 5, 1945, the Chicago native had already established himself in gritty 70s cinema before stepping into the dystopian corporate boardroom of RoboCop. At the age of 42, Perry's portrayal of Donald Johnson, the sycophantic and perpetually smiling OCP executive, became a standout element of the film's biting satire on corporate greed. While other characters met gruesome ends, his character famously survived the carnage to appear in all 3 films of the original trilogy, serving as the Teflon corporate climber who represented the unkillable nature of bureaucracy. In reality, Felton Perry was a far cry from the cowardly and opportunistic yes man he played on screen. Known for his natural cool and intensity in earlier roles like explicitly tough police officers in Magnum Force and Walking Tall, playing the slimy executive required him to suppress his inherent gravitas. His career was heavily impacted by the struggle of typecasting. Throughout the 70s and 80s, he found it difficult to break out of the police officer or sidekick mold that the industry frequently forced upon black actors of his generation. He also faced the instability of television success. He was a regular on the John Ritter series Hooperman, which was critically acclaimed but canceled after just 2 seasons, forcing him back into the grind of auditioning for guest spots. Felton Perry continued to work steadily as a character actor for decades, showcasing his comedic timing in Dumb and Dumber and satirizing Hollywood stereotypes in Robert Townsend's Hollywood Shuffle. He remained a familiar face on television well into the 2000s with roles on The West Wing and Prison Break, before his on-screen appearances slowed down. As of 2026, at the age of 80, he is largely retired from the entertainment industry, living a private life away from the public eye. He remains a celebrated figure on the convention circuit, and among sci-fi fans revered as one of the enduring survivors of the classic RoboCop saga. Jesse D. Goins as Joe Cox. Born on July 18, 1952, the Ocala, Florida native had already established himself in television before taking on the grittier world of Paul Verhoeven's sci-fi satire. At the age of 34, Goins portrayed Joe Cox, the cackling and sadistic member of Clarence Boddicker's gang, delivering a performance that stood out for its manic energy and dark humor. His character became an integral part of one of cinema's most memorable villain lineups, contributing to the film's lasting cultural footprint as a masterpiece of dystopian violence and social commentary. While Joe Cox was a chaotic criminal who reveled in destruction, Jesse D. Goins was a disciplined professional who faced the complex reality of being a character actor in Hollywood. The contrast between his role as the laughing thug in RoboCop and his previous good guy role in The Greatest American Hero showcased his range, yet the industry frequently pigeonholed him. Goins struggled with being typecast, often finding himself relegated to playing uniformed police officers, security guards, or military personnel for decades. This repetitive casting made it difficult for him to break into leading roles, forcing him to navigate the frustration of being a highly recognizable face, who was rarely given the opportunity to carry a project. Jesse D. Goins continued to work steadily throughout the ensuing decades, building a respectable resume that included appearances in Patriot Games, Soldier, and hit television series like Boston Legal, Scandal, and Agents of SHIELD. He maintained a low profile regarding his private life, avoiding the celebrity spotlight to focus on his craft. As of 2026, at the age of 74, he is a retired veteran of the industry, occasionally celebrated by fans at conventions for his contributions to the golden era of 1980s action and science fiction. Zamora as Kaplan. Born on January 14, 1959 in Roswell, New Mexico, the actor entered the annals of sci-fi history with his performance in Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop. At the age of 28, Zamora portrayed Kaplan, a gleefully sadistic member of Clarence Boddicker's criminal gang. He was integral to one of the most shocking scenes in 1980s cinema, the brutal execution of Officer Alex Murphy, which sets the film's entire revenge plot in motion. The movie became a massive commercial and critical success, and while Kaplan was a supporting villain, Zamora's performance helped establish the gang as some of the most memorable and hateful antagonists of the era. Zamora as Kaplan. Born on January 14, 1959 in Roswell, New Mexico, the actor entered the annals of sci-fi history with his performance in Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop. At the age of 28, Zamora portrayed Kaplan, a gleefully sadistic member of Clarence Boddicker's criminal gang. He was integral to one of the most shocking scenes in 1980s cinema, the brutal execution of Officer Alex Murphy, which sets the film's entire revenge plot in motion. The movie became a massive commercial and critical success, and while Kaplan was a supporting villain, Zamora's performance helped establish the gang as some of the most memorable and hateful antagonists of the era. Seeing the cast of RoboCop today reminds us that while time moves forward, the legacy of a masterpiece never fades. These actors didn't just play roles. They defined an era of science fiction that still resonates today. Who was your favorite character growing up, and how do you feel seeing them now? Share your memories in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into your favorite movie classics.